Let me introduce myself. My name is Evelyn Harper, and for 30 years, I poured my heart and soul into a company that ultimately discarded me like yesterday's trash. Looking back now, it all feels surreal, like some twisted corporate fairy tale where the loyal subject gets banished by the very kingdom she helped build. But this isn't just about me. It's about betrayal, secrets, power, and how one small act can ripple through an entire empire. I started at Sterling and Company right out of college, fresh-faced and eager to prove myself in the world of finance. Back then, Sterling was more than just a corporation. It was a family. Or so we were told. The founder, Mr. Harold Sterling himself, had personally interviewed me for the position. He saw something in me, a spark, he called it, and promised that if I worked hard enough, there would be no limits to what I could achieve within his company. And I believed him. Oh, how foolishly optimistic I was. Over the decades, I climbed the ranks steadily but surely. From entry-level analyst to senior vice president of operations, every promotion came with sacrifices, late nights spent poring over reports, weekends missed with friends and family, birthdays celebrated alone at my desk because the numbers couldn't wait. But none of that mattered. What mattered was loyalty. Loyalty to the company, loyalty to its values, loyalty to the people who worked alongside me. At least that's what I thought. Sterling and Company grew exponentially during my tenure. We expanded globally, acquired smaller firms, and became a titan in our industry. Yet, somewhere along the way, things changed. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the culture shifted. The once close-knit team dynamic gave way to cutthroat competition. Colleagues stopped sharing ideas openly and began guarding their successes jealously. It wasn't long before whispers of favoritism and backdoor deals started circulating around the office. Still, I held on to hope. After all, I'd given my life to this place. Surely, they wouldn't forget everything I'd done for them. Then came him, Alexander Drake, the Golden Boy CEO, handpicked by the board after Mr. Sterling retired. Alex was everything I wasn't. Young, charismatic, ambitious to the point of recklessness. When he took over 5 years ago, he brought with him sweeping changes designed to modernize the company. Out went the old guard, replaced by flashy up-and-comers armed with MBAs and little real-world experience. In meetings, Alex spoke endlessly about innovation, disruption, and staying ahead of the curve. But beneath his polished exterior lay a man obsessed with control and willing to do whatever it took to maintain it. At first, I tried to adapt. I attended his seminars, embraced his new strategies, even mentored some of the younger employees he hired. But as time went on, it became clear that Alex didn't value experience or institutional knowledge. To him, anyone over 40 was expendable, a relic of a bygone era better suited for retirement than leadership. And so, when the layoffs began, I should have seen it coming. Should have prepared myself for the inevitable. But denial is a powerful thing. The day they fired me, I remember walking into Alex's office expecting nothing more than a routine performance review. Instead, I found 2 members of HR waiting beside him, their faces grim masks of professional detachment. Before I could even sit down, Alex launched into a rehearsed speech about restructuring and cost-cutting measures. How my role had become redundant. How grateful they were for my contributions, but not grateful enough to keep me around. Redundant. That word stung more than anything else. 30 years of blood, sweat, and tears reduced to a single, dismissive label. They offered me a severance package, of course, a pittance compared to what I deserved, but enough to ensure I wouldn't sue. As I left the building for the last time, clutching a box of personal belongings, I felt hollow, numb, like part of me had died inside. For weeks afterward, I struggled to process what had happened. Friends and family urged me to move on, to start fresh somewhere else. But how could I? Sterling and Company wasn't just a job, it was my identity. Without it, I felt lost, adrift in a sea of uncertainty. Nights blurred into days as anger slowly replaced grief. Anger at Alex, at the board, at the system that allowed such callous disregard for human beings. And then, one sleepless night, inspiration struck. It began innocently enough, a fleeting thought born of frustration. Over the years, I'd accumulated access to nearly every aspect of the company's infrastructure. Passwords, security codes, confidential documents, all stored meticulously in encrypted files on my laptop. Most of these credentials had been revoked upon my termination, but not all of them. There was one account, buried deep within the network, that no one knew existed except me. An account created years ago during the crisis when quick access was needed across multiple departments. An account linked directly to Alex's most prized project, Project Phoenix. Project Phoenix was Alex's brainchild, his magnum opus, a top-secret initiative designed to revolutionize the financial sector using cutting-edge AI technology. Billions of dollars had already been funneled into its development, and stakes were high. Success meant global domination. Failure meant ruin. Only a select few executives knew the full scope of the project, and even fewer had unrestricted access to its systems, including me, or rather, including the ghost of me still lingering in the digital ether. That night, I sat at my kitchen table staring at my laptop screen, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Should I? Could I? The temptation was intoxicating. With a single keystroke, I could disable access to Project Phoenix entirely. Lock Alex out of his own creation. Watch as panic spread through the upper echelons of Sterling and Company. The idea filled me with a strange mix of dread and exhilaration. Was this justice or revenge? Did it even matter anymore? In the end, curiosity won out. I logged in, navigating through layers of firewalls and encryption protocols until I reached the hidden account. One tweak here, another there, and voila! Alex's golden ticket vanished into thin air. For good measure, I set up a series of automated alerts to notify me whenever someone attempted to regain access. Then, satisfied with my work, I powered down the laptop and waited. It didn't take long for chaos to ensue. By mid-morning the next day, rumors of a catastrophic system failure were spreading like wildfire throughout Sterling and Company. Phones rang off the hook as frantic employees scrambled to figure out what went wrong. Executives huddled in emergency meetings behind closed doors while IT teams worked tirelessly to restore functionality. Meanwhile, Alex paced his office like a caged animal, barking orders and demanding answers. And then, just as I predicted, he came looking for me. His call came late that afternoon. At first, I hesitated to answer, unsure whether I wanted to confront him yet. But eventually, curiosity got the better of me. Taking a deep breath, I picked up the phone. "Evelyn," Alex said, his voice strained but eerily calm. "We need to talk." "Oh," I replied, coolly, savoring the moment. "About what?" "You know damn well what," he snapped, losing his composure for a split second. "Project Phoenix is down, completely inaccessible. And guess what? Every trace leads back to you." I couldn't help but laugh. "Me? Really, Alex? You think I'd sabotage something so important? Why would I do that?" "Don't play dumb with me," he growled. "You're the only one who ever had access to that level of clearance. You must have left something behind, a backdoor, a failsafe. Whatever it is, you need to fix it. Now. Fix it. Just like that. As if 30 years of service amounted to nothing more than technical support. The audacity of his demand made my blood boil. But I forced myself to stay composed. "I'm sorry, Alex," I said sweetly. "But I don't work for Sterling and Company anymore, remember? Maybe you should ask one of your shiny new hires to handle it." There was a long pause on the other end of the line, followed by a heavy sigh. When Alex spoke again, his tone had softened slightly, almost pleading. "Look, Evelyn, I know things ended badly between us. Believe me, firing you wasn't easy. But right now, we're facing a potential disaster here. If Project Phoenix goes offline permanently, it could destroy the company. Thousands of jobs will be lost, including yours indirectly. Is that really what you want?" The guilt trip. Classic Alex, always trying to manipulate emotions to get what he wanted. But this time it wouldn't work. "Funny you should mention destruction," I said, letting a hint of steel creep into my voice. "Because that's exactly what you did to me when you threw me away like garbage. Do you have any idea what it's like to dedicate your entire life to something, only to be cast aside without a second thought? To be told you're redundant? Worthless?" "I never said you were worthless," Alex interjected quickly. "You misunderstood." "No, Alex," I interrupted, my voice rising. "You understood perfectly. You looked me in the eye and told me I was no longer needed. Well, congratulations. You got your wish. I'm gone. But apparently, so is your precious project. Funny how karma works, isn't it?" He fell silent again, and for a moment I wondered if he'd hung up. Then, finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "What do you want, Evelyn?" What did I want? The question caught me off guard. For weeks, I'd been consumed by anger and resentment, fueled by thoughts of retribution. But now, faced with the opportunity to make demands, I realized I hadn't thought that far ahead. Money? Power? An apology? None of those seemed sufficient. Not after everything I'd endured. I began, trailing off as I searched for the right words. I want you to understand what it feels like to lose everything. To wake up one morning and realize the foundation of your entire existence has crumbled beneath you. Until you truly grasp that, Alex, we have nothing more to discuss. With that, I ended the call, leaving him to stew in his desperation. Part of me expected him to retaliate immediately, send lawyers, threaten legal action, dig up dirt on me. But strangely, nothing happened. Days turned into weeks, and the silence from Sterling and company was deafening. Meanwhile, news of Project Phoenix's mysterious shutdown leaked to the press, sending shockwaves through the business community. Speculation ran rampant, with everyone from disgruntled employees to rival companies being blamed for the fiasco. As for me, I retreated further into solitude, watching the fallout unfold from afar. Occasionally, I'd receive emails or messages from former colleagues, asking if I knew anything about the situation. Some sounded accusatory, others desperate. I ignored them all, content to let the mystery remain unsolved. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of control, a quiet satisfaction knowing that I held the key to Alex's undoing. But deep down, I also knew this wasn't over. Revenge, I discovered, is a double-edged sword. While it may bring temporary relief, it leaves scars that never fully heal. And as satisfying as it was to see Alex squirm, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that I'd crossed a line, one that might come back to haunt me sooner or later. Still, for now, I reveled in the chaos, because in a world where loyalty meant nothing and experience was disposable, sometimes the only way to reclaim your dignity was to burn it all down and start anew. The weeks that followed were a blur of uncertainty and tension. Every morning, I woke up expecting to see flashing lights outside my window or hear a knock on my door from law enforcement. But nothing happened. The silence from Sterling and company was deafening, almost eerie. It was as if they were paralyzed, afraid to act, unsure of what I might do next. In the meantime, the media circus surrounding Project Phoenix reached fever pitch. Journalists dissected every detail of the company's failure, speculating wildly about sabotage, insider threats, and corporate espionage. Some even painted me as a whistleblower, though no one had any proof linking me to the shutdown. I stayed off social media, avoided interviews, and kept my head down, letting the rumors swirl around me like smoke. But Alex wasn't idle. He tried reaching out multiple times, emails, texts, even sending intermediaries to plead with me. Each attempt grew more desperate than the last. At first, his messages were calculated, trying to appeal to whatever shred of loyalty I might still feel for the company. Then came the bargaining. Promises of reinstatement, promotions, even a seat on the board if I'd undo what I'd done. When those failed, his tone shifted to anger, then desperation, until finally he resorted to something unexpected: honesty. One evening, just as dusk settled over the city, my phone buzzed with an incoming call. This time, it wasn't Alex's voice on the other end. It was Mr. Harold Sterling himself. The retired founder of Sterling and Company, now in his late 80s, sounded frail but resolute. "Evelyn," he began, his voice tinged with regret. "I've heard about everything that's happened. I wish I could say I'm surprised, but, well, let's just say I've seen this kind of thing before." His words caught me off guard. For years, I'd idolized Mr. Sterling, believing him to be the moral compass of the company. Yet here he was, acknowledging that the very rot-consuming Sterling and Company had likely started under his watch. "I know you're angry," he continued, "and you have every right to be. What Alex did to you was wrong, cruel even. But tearing down the company won't fix anything. You'll only hurt innocent people who depend on us for their livelihoods." His argument struck a nerve. As much as I hated to admit it, he was right. Thousands of employees across the globe relied on Sterling and Company for their paychecks, health care, and retirement plans. Destroying the company wouldn't make me whole again. It would only add to the collateral damage. "What do you want me to do?" I asked, my voice trembling with emotion. Alex fired me without a second thought. He treated me like I was expendable after 30 years of service. How am I supposed to forgive that? There was a long pause before Mr. Sterling replied. You don't have to forgive him, Evelyn. But maybe this is your chance to change things, not just for yourself, but for everyone else who's been wronged by the system. Use your leverage wisely. Make them listen. His words lingered in my mind long after we ended the call. For the first time since my termination, I allowed myself to consider alternatives to revenge. Maybe there was another way to hold Alex accountable without destroying the company, or myself, in the process. The next day, I reached out to Alex. Our conversation was brief but pointed. I told him I'd reinstate access to Project Phoenix under one condition: complete transparency. No more backroom deals, no more secrecy. From now on, every decision made by upper management would be subject to review by an independent ethics committee composed of employees at all levels. Additionally, Alex would issue a public apology, not just to me, but to everyone affected by his reckless policies, and commit to rebuilding trust within the organization. To my surprise, he agreed. Desperation can make people surprisingly compliant. Over the following months, Sterling and Company underwent a dramatic transformation. Under pressure from both internal and external forces, Alex implemented sweeping reforms aimed at fostering inclusivity, accountability, and fairness. Employees were given a voice in major decisions, and initiatives were launched to support workforce diversity and mental health. Slowly but surely, the toxic culture that had taken root during Alex's tenure began to heal. As for me, I chose not to return to Sterling and Company. Instead, I used my severance package to start a consulting firm focused on helping companies navigate ethical challenges and build sustainable workplace cultures. My experience had taught me that revenge, while satisfying in the moment, rarely leads to lasting change. True justice comes from breaking cycles of harm and creating opportunities for growth. Looking back, I realized that losing my job wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where I reclaimed my power not through destruction, but through redemption. And while I'll never forget the pain of being discarded by the company I loved, I've come to understand that sometimes the greatest victories are the ones we least expect. In the end, Alex got what he deserved, not through vengeance, but through accountability. And as for me, well, I found something far more valuable than revenge: purpose.